Hi everyone, this is Julie Bruns. Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities podcast. I want you to thrive and be happy, peaceful, and content, no matter where you are on your journey. This podcast shares stories that will show you how it can be done, no matter what your circumstances. You'll be inspired and come away with a new spark of an idea. Never forget, anything is possible. New episodes are released every Wednesday. Subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. This helps others find our content and get happier sooner. To possibility and beyond. Okay, welcome everyone. My guest today is Derek Doepker. And Derek is in the book coaching business. It's I know that's a simplification, Derek, but now you are. I know you have a really interesting background in where you are now is not where you started off necessarily, but I know you have other interests. So I don't know a lot about you personally. What I do know is that you send really cool emails every week about how to get your books like written and stay on track and get, be inspired, etc. So I know that you're good with that. I know I love getting your emails because they're always just simple and they have some little, usually it's 2 or 3 nuggets, but there's always something I take away. So I appreciate that. So say hello. And I'm trying to remember how I met you and where I came across now I just remembered it. I think it was through Christine Glosser. Would that have been?
Christine Closer. Yep.
Closer. Yes. Yep. Her name wrong. I feel like I met her in the last maybe 2 years. And I may have been on one of her webinars or something. And that's probably how I connected with you. Does that sound right?
Yeah, could have been. And so I've done some things with Christine. She's great. She's also in the book writing world for transformational authors. So we've definitely have done some stuff, Christine and I.
Cool. All right. Well, I figured it out. It was bugging me. Now I knew. All right. So say hello. And just the first question I wanted to ask you is how did you get into this business? And, did you start off that in thinking you were going to be into helping people with books?
Well, thank you for having me, Julie. It's a pleasure to chat again. And I did not think I would be doing anything with book writing. It's one of those things where book writing or coaching, I mean, if I go back to when I was high school, I was started playing guitar when I was 12, and I knew I'm going to become a rock star. Yeah. That was the dream. And so I got my degree in music. And it was, I could go more into this story, any details that you want. The somewhat brief version is when I moved out to Los Angeles after getting a degree at Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee, came out to LA, pursue my dreams. And that right there, talk about possibilities. It's, I was worried or scared to move out to LA because I'm like, I kind of hear the stories, it's this big city and there's kind of a stereotype about LA people being a little snobbish or whatever, which I have not found. Where did you come
from? I missed the city. Sorry, you came from where?
Well, I was in college in Nashville, but I grew up in Indiana. So very just Midwest. And, but when I moved to LA, first of all, lots of great people here. I don't like, I'm not a big fan of stereotypes, especially when you have millions of people in a city. It's like, how could you ever really classify it? If there's any classification, is you can find, all kinds of different people and opportunities here. So that's what attracted me to LA was just like, this is where the rock stars are. This is where the music scene is. And I remember part of there's the fear there, of like, well, I'm just, what are the odds of success and things like that. But I've always had this thing, and it suits, I think part of our alignment here is this possibilities thing is like, I never wanted to be just typical. I could not stand the idea that another 10 years would go by, 15, 20 years would go by. And I look back and I go, but what if I would have gone for it? And what if I just settled for mediocrity, settled for ordinary? At least if I go for it, I can say, hey, I gave it all I got, and whatever happens, that'll be a useful experience. So that's part of what motivated me. And there's a Jim Rohn quote. It's, we must all suffer one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret and disappointment. Now, I don't know if you'd say moving to LA was a discipline thing, but it was certainly something to go, well, if I don't go for it, I'm going to regret it. And that's been my attitude through a lot of things, where it's like, I'd rather go for my dreams and fail, so to speak. That's still more of a success than succeed at living a life of mediocrity.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you started with that, because I talk about that in my book, going for it, risking. My dad had all these ideas and he tried to go for it, but he didn't really go for it. And that was part of the inspiration of finishing the book and starting my company, because I don't want it, just like you, I don't want to have regrets. And the thing, I think the most important thing you said is, even if you fail at the thing you went for, you still are a success because you actually went for it. And most people will just stay comfortable, stay in their safety zone and not go for it, and then just die going like, you don't ever hear people at the end going, I wish I wouldn't have taken that risk. At least they took it and now they know. My husband and I were just talking about that the other day. It's like, your book, if you did it and it wasn't a success, but you did it. A lot of people, there's so many people that never do it. So you've already been successful. So I love that. I love that did someone encourage you to do that? Or were you just always in your mind, you're like, I'm going to go here and try this?
It was a mix. So I'm grateful. I had a guy I knew from high school who was out in LA. So he was like, yeah, man, you could come out here. You're good enough to be, you're better than some of these people I hear playing in these, these clubs or whatever as a guitar player. And then I'm fortunate. My family was actually supportive of me. Not initially, they didn't initially want me to go to college in LA. So that was part of what I stayed closer to home going to Nashville. But once I graduated, they were actually very supportive of me pursuing music, because they go, well, if that's your passion, if that's your love, go for it. And I know a lot of people don't have that kind of support or family that would say something like that. So I feel a certain gratitude for recognizing I had a family and people who supported me, and like, if you have a talent, if you have a skill, pursue your dreams. I feel like that's part of what gives me that desire to pay it forward. When I see other people, maybe they've been discouraged or they're told they can't do something, it's like, I want to be that voice that says you can do it. Also though, with practicality. So it's not just like, you can do it, go you. It's also like, you can do it, and here's the strategy if you want to be effective at it. So I have a very pragmatic, practical side of myself too, combined with the, well, how can you do it? How can you be successful at this? Talking about success, it's like, what if success isn't, oh, I gotta, in my case, get a record deal and do this or that? To me, success is more, how do I want to show up in life? That becomes more the definition of success. That's why I could be at the end of my life and be like, I was successful just because I went for it. I'm proud of the decisions that I made. And then it's not an outcome-based success. It's more of a being way of success.
I love it. So well put. And then it leads me to my next question. You were already being that way, whether the end game was you got what you thought you wanted or not, it didn't matter. Of course it mattered, but along the way, you're still, how do you want to feel and how do you want to be? So, and then you're also not compromising your values and who you are. You're still going for it with all of those other good things you have. So how did you get from LA music to books?
Yeah. So that's the transition where I go, okay, never imagined I'd be doing books. So as I got into LA, and before I moved out to LA, I got into personal development. So that's where I first heard of Jim Rohn, and there's the Tony Robbins and Jack Canfield and all the personal development people out there. And that had an impact on me in the sense of going, wow, I'm actually in control of my emotions. I can, I'm not just whatever happens. I can actually choose to a degree how I feel, how I interpret things, how I frame things. And I think I had an inclination towards that. That was maybe just a natural part of my personality to, like, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People probably late high school.
Wow.
So I kind of had I want to better myself. I want to improve, whether it was playing music or, these things. But then I discovered this world of, there's a whole world called personal development. And so I got into that. And when I moved out, that transitioned into entrepreneurship. Then this idea you can start a business. So I moved out to LA, and in addition to my passion for music, I was also really into fitness. So I started thinking, okay, well, I'm broke when I moved to LA. I'm sleeping on an air mattress. I'm working a job as a valet parker. And then I took another second job delivering hot wings. And a quick note on that, why I took that job. I don't even eat hot wings. But I had another job that I turned down that would have been like a dream job. And looking back, it's like even at the moment, it wasn't logical for me to turn this job down. But what happened was I go in and it was a music store in West LA. And the guy liked me right off the bat. He pretty much gave me the job right then and there. And then I was walking to my car and I just had this kind of sinking feeling in my gut that there was at least one seminar coming up, a free seminar that I wanted to go to. And I was thinking about all the, like, I want to start building this business. I want to be able to attend these seminars and stuff. And I wouldn't be able to do it if I was working this job. And I had this intuition where I'm like, logically, I need the money. Like, this would be a good job. I'd actually enjoy it. Something inside me just felt off, and I ended up turning down that job. And then like a week later doing the hot wings delivery job, which did not pay as much, not as consistent, kind of a, not the best job in the world, but I took it because I got to drive around and listen to podcasts, teleseminars, all of that. And I knew that this is like, I'm going to get paid to educate myself over this next period of time.
That's so smart. It's also, I think, I don't know about the people you hung around with in high school, but I was also I love personal development and learning, being inspired. But I don't know very many guys, boys in high school or even college that were like, I want to better myself. It was just kind of like, get through school, get through high school, especially high school. And then in college, it was like, all right, get through college. A lot of people I know didn't have to work. I had to work out through school, but just party, do whatever, go to school. And they're not thinking like, how can I better my life? So the fact that you were already on that path. And I love that you were like, this would be better money and it's music and I love music, but I can do this other thing that's going to actually help me grow, pay me a little bit less, but allow me the freedom and the flexibility to become a better person. That's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. And it's probably my personality. I'm very, and this can be a double-edged sword. It's not always a good thing. Very future oriented. So I'm thinking, yeah, but what about in a year from now? What about in 5 years from now? Like, where do I want to be? And that's what allowed me to go, I might like this in the short term, but I always just projected out a year, 3 years or 5 years in the future. And it's like, even when I got into fitness, I used to eat fast food every night. And this, by the way, is all leading into getting into the book world. These are the seeds that are planted earlier on. And I was eating fast food every night, and I was actually like really scrawny. I was 118 pounds in high school. And then like senior year, part of what shifted was I read a book. It was called The Wrinkle Cure. It's just about like anti-aging and stuff, but it showed me the science of what I was like, all the junk food was doing to my body. And I had another, like, just projected out like 10 years in the future as an adult, like, who do I want to be? I want to be someone who's fit, who's healthy, who feels good and looks good and all this. And I envision myself and I go, when I had that vision and then I look at my current behaviors, it then was like out of alignment. And so a lot of the change in behavior, it started on an identity level. It goes back to that question, who do I want to be? So that got me into fitness. Then when I moved out to Los Angeles and wanted to build a business, I could have done something with music. And I think I was messing around a little bit with like, I was teaching online guitar lessons and different things on Fiverr to help pay the bills. And I also had so many people asking me about fitness advice. And I go, well, fitness is a big industry. Maybe I could start a blog. I could start a YouTube channel. So I did all that sort of stuff. And I spent, if I started in 2011, I mean, it was a good year or two of just doing that with very little, if any, results to show for it. It's not making money, not making sales, did not build a 1 million person YouTube channel or anything like that. And what got me, what was a turning point was when I got a package in the mail. And in this package, it was something I won for posting on a blog. I chose someone at random, and in this package was a Kindle e-reader. And I got it and I go, Kindle, okay, well, I've never really read a Kindle book, but it's kind of becoming a thing. This is back in 2012. And I had started writing on my blog, and I made this like 350 page fitness guide. I could barely sell it to my own friends and family. So I thought, well, maybe if I put something out there on Kindle, something will happen. So I decided to take some of that writing and I published it, my first book on Amazon Kindle, middle of 2012. And I checked the sales stats recently. That first 2 months, I sold a total of 2 copies of that book. And I think 1 copy was to my mom. So it did not suddenly take off. But it was like a stepping stone moment where I go, well, I can do it. I see how to do it.
Yeah.
And side note, this is something I think is helpful even for authors or aspiring authors. It's like, just get one done. I think I took the pressure off myself on that first book to just like, I'm just going to get it out there and whatever happens, happens. Second book, I put a lot more of my energy into, my focus, and I go, this is the one I'm going to launch and I'm going to do it really well. So I launched my second book and that made about $70 something, I think, in the first month. And I go, well, considering I spent probably a couple months working on this, I'm pretty sure I was making maybe less than $1 an hour if I were to do the math. And I go, it was cool though, because I got some positive reviews. Strangers who I didn't know, a few people actually were buying it. I'm like, well, that's kind of cool.
Best, right?
And so it was a win, but it was also like, yeah, I don't know if this is really for me. In the sense of on to the next shiny object, on to the next thing that'll actually work, even though nothing had worked up to that point. Then in November of 2012, I went to a seminar. This is something up until that point, I'd gone to seminars for free or I volunteered at them because I was broke. I didn't have the money. But this was one that I actually signed up for when I moved to LA. It took me almost 2 years of making payments to even be able to get to it. And I go to it, and this is where I learned about this man, Brandon Broadwater, taught about relationships and influence. And I was so inspired after that seminar. I got, I'm going to write one more book. And it was this idea I had, 50 fitness tips you wish you knew. And I go, obviously I want it to do well, but whether it does or doesn't, it was something I felt this calling to get it out there. And I'm like, I want my friends to have this. I want my family to have this. I felt really good about the book. And yes, it would be great if it sold. But either way, I want to get this book out there. Right. I launched it. I had already done so much writing and content up to that point. It only took me about a week to go from blank page to finished draft, and launched it. And within less than 1 month of going from blank page to launching the book, it became a #1 bestseller in weight loss. It was outranking Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Body at the time for at least, I think on Christmas Day, it was outranking it. Made almost $6,000 in royalties in 11 days, which was months of valet parking to do that. And it was this moment. I remember I was on Christmas vacation with my family, and I remember just like constantly hitting refresh on Amazon, like seeing the book sales go up, and it was like hundreds of sales. And I'm like, I've never sold this much of anything in my life. And I'd like showing my mom and my family. And it was this moment where it was these two opposite extreme emotions. On one hand, it was surreal. Like, this is happening. These are hundreds of sales. I've never done this before. This is a breakthrough. And almost like, I can't believe this is happening. Then the other extreme is, of course, like, this is what I've been working for the whole time. Like, some part of me knew something was going to happen. I wouldn't have been going, for years going after this if I didn't have some belief that there would eventually be the breakthrough. So it was like totally expected and yet unexpected mixed together in that moment.
I get it. I felt the same way with my book. Yeah, like you worked your butt off. Of course it's doing well and people like it. Like, yeah, it's like you just threw it out there and see, yeah, it's so funny. I feel the same way. That's crazy. All right, so you have this book and now you're like, all right, I can teach other people how to do this?
Yeah, another thing I believe helped was, even before the book was a success, I had set an intention, which is, when I figure this out, and it could have been with the book launching, it could have been with anything else that I cracked the code to, but I had this feeling like, when I figure this out, I'm going to teach others. I'm going to create a training course on this. And so when it had that breakthrough, immediately I go, my next step is going to be to teach people what I did, because it was so frustrating going through different courses and trainings and them not working
Yeah.
for me. And it's not knocking them, I just had to learn more stuff. And at the same time, there's some missing things. I had to do things my own way to a certain degree. And I go, what would I wish someone would have taught me?
Yeah.
I wish someone would have said, you don't have to worry about some of these things I was focused on. Like, keywords are great. And I was like really into keywords and I got to optimize the keywords. Well, yeah, that's helpful. What's more important is that you actually have a compelling title and description that speaks to a person, a human being more than an algorithm.
Yeah.
And there's things where I go, okay, what would the course I wish I would have had been? What would the training I wish I would have had been?
Solving a problem.
Yeah. And it was actually what the book 50 Fitness Tips You Wish You Knew was. It was this idea. This is a great thing if anyone wants to create a book or a course or any sort of training. It's like, what did I wish I knew X number of years ago?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm very future oriented, thinking forward, but then I flip it backwards and I go, what could I tell my younger self a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? If I had a time machine, could go back in time and hand my younger self a book, what would that book be? Well, there's no time machine that I have, but I can create it and then pass it forward now to other people to save them a lot of the trial, error, headache, years of learning curve. And that's what went into my books. And then that's what went into creating a course, which then I got a coach to help me launch that. It was Russ Ruffino, who's now got a big company. He was still, I wouldn't say he was getting started, but he wasn't as big of a name as he is now. And he helped me create this course or launch it. And within a few months after my book launch, I launched that course. And I don't remember the sales. It was in the 5 figures when I did that launch. And ever since then, I've continued to publish books now and personal development. Another moment of pride was when I had been the book Wire Stock, where it was outranking for a period of time Jack Canfield and Tony Robbins. And I'm like, here I am, the guy was a broke valet parker driving around listening to Jack Canfield and talk about possibilities. Like, that doesn't seem like it should be possible for someone like that to then go and create their book, launch it. And I haven't sold nearly as many books as Jack Canfield has, but at least for a period of time,
it's possible.
I was number one in self-help and outranking some of my, some of the people that I've looked up to and who taught me a lot. So that's what I've done in the book writing world and in the book coaching world ever since 2013. I've been working with authors really on this idea that, it's possible with the right strategy, with the right approach. I really believe most people can do it if they have, and this is the caveat, they got to have the right mindset and the right intentions and tap into the knowledge that they have. So I'm not saying anyone can just publish any old book and, hey, I'm not going to blow smoke here. It's at the same time going, like, if a broke valet parker with no name, virtually no following, sleeping on an air mattress, barely any income, could find a way to make a breakthrough. Might not be books for everyone, but there's probably some path that you can follow to achieve your dreams.
Oh, I love it. And that answers the third question. I was going to say, what would you tell other people trying to follow? It's like you have the intuition, you have the idea, it is possible. What's your strategy to do it? See into the future. Obviously work at it and then try different things. I love your mindset and the mindset. I love that you were like, all right, I'm going to try this. And if this doesn't work, I'll try something else. But number one, you weren't giving up. And then you were like, well, what else can I learn? And all along the way, learning and figuring out what you didn't know to fill in the gaps. I mean, it's not rocket science, but it's like some people just think, oh, either they've never seen anyone done it, so they don't think it's possible, or they know it's possible, but no one like me's ever done it before, so maybe it's not possible. I never even thought about what you were describing with the, looking at your book ranked with other ones. The same thing happened to me with my book. It was like, I was above Brene Brown for a couple hours. I was above like these people that you're, like, I've been reading those books, same as you. I've been reading personal development books for 20 years. It's just it's so fun. And it's just, it is possible, and you have to have a strategy. You have to work at it. It's not just going to happen overnight. That's the other thing. What is there anything that you wish you would have learned sooner? So, I mean, it sounds like you have a great head on your shoulders at a young age, which is really hard to fathom in high school. I'm thinking back to the boys I knew in high school, because you really are a boy. I mean, teenager or not, whether you're 18 or 17, like you're still a boy. You have the mind of a boy, really. Then it's not very common. What else would you tell like younger people that are either want to switch it up or graduating and have a degree in something they don't really want to study, or it's not working for them? What would you say to those people? Or even the people like me in their, in their 50s going and like, I don't know if I could write a book, or I don't know. I have something to say. Like, what would you say to either one of those people?
Yeah. So there's a couple trains of thought there. One is, I think what helped me, even at a younger age, while I look back now at 17-year-old, 18-year-old Derek and be like, man, you got so much to learn. But I'm also grateful because I'm like, well, I made a lot of good decisions then too.
Yeah.
And the point on that is, another quick story to illustrate the mindset component is when I first wanted to play guitar, I was about 12 years old. And I remember waiting for my mom to pick me up from school, and I was waiting with my best friend. And I tell him like, yeah, man, I want to start playing guitar. We had a mutual friend, Russ, who played guitar, and like, yeah, I started playing Russ's guitar, and it was a lot of fun. And I want to start playing. He's like, oh man, you can't play guitar. Like, you don't have the discipline for it. It's like, my brother tried to play guitar and it was so hard. And he's like, and you don't have like the personality to stick to it. I'm like, this is my best friend. And I'm like, and I just remember I don't know if I even said anything. Knowing my personality, I just bottled it inside and just kind of sat there and stewed in anger that he would say that. There's a part of me that while I think I still would have played guitar, there's also a bit of me, like when someone tells me I can't do something, I'm almost more motivated to just like, I'm going to prove you wrong. Mm-hmm. And that attitude, like it's this comes into setting up, what if you don't believe you can do it, or things like that. It's a mix of, yes, you want to have cheerleaders and supporters and people who believe in you. That was, again, grateful for my family and having just some belief in myself. But I also look at, you will face resistance. You will have people who tell you can't do it. You might even write a book and have people tell you this book sucks. What are you doing? All these sort of things. And so part of it is the framing of even using that energy. And I don't know if this is for everyone. This is just what worked for me, is going, okay, cool. Challenge accepted. Like, you don't think I can do it? Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. And it's actually using that. But I would say you got to know thyself, know yourself and understand, do you need to see more role models of people who've done it, what other people have accomplished? Exposure to that. That's so important. Like, how you learn to walk wasn't through reading a book. You saw people walking. How you learned to speak your first language wasn't through studying grammar and syntax. It was through exposure, environment, people, your peers, not peers, but your family or whomever. Right. And so this is key to get where Yogananda has a quote, environment is stronger than willpower. And if you think about how much we're hardwired to learn through environment, mirror neurons kicking off what we see other people do, that is having an environment where you're around people and you read stories or biographies or listen to podcasts like this, of listening to stories of people who you go, at some point you start to go, you know what, if they can do it, I can do it. And when you get enough of that, that can build the belief in yourself. And then when it's like, well, I don't know if we could go even deeper in that, but that would be the starting point. I would say is, if you're not sure you can do it, two things: surround yourself with the people, some people who give you that inspiration. And the second thing is, remember all the things you've done up to this point in time in your life, all the challenges that you've overcome. Look at your wins that you've had. Like, writing a book can be challenging, and it's not like backbreaking labor. It's not like, probably I haven't raised kids, but I imagine raising kids would be significantly more challenging. It's like, if you've done any of these things, then in what you've done through your life, you can look back at all of the things that you've overcome, all the lessons that you've learned. And not only can that give you the confidence to write a book or create whatever it is that you feel called to create, pursue a dream, it might actually be the inspiration for what that looks like. Hey, you know what? I've overcome these challenges. Now I want to pass it forward and teach others what I've learned from that. So that's my approach. Each person needs to find their own path to a degree. If the universal principles are, just thinking about Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn talking about proximity, proximity is power. This idea of who you surround yourself with has a big influence on what you believe is possible for yourself.
I love that. I love that. It's great advice. I'm writing a ton because you have so many good nuggets and words of wisdom. So it's going to be hard to wrap this up into one newsletter with all the good tips. I love it. What else have you done? I wanted to say something about that before I ask you my final question. I read somewhere in one of the books, one of the hundreds of books I've been reading, about listing out your accomplishments. So when I am feeling like, all right, can I get past this hurdle? Like even the last couple of months finishing my book, it was done at the end of September, then it was being edited, then it was being copy edited, all of that, like on and on. Then you have to reread it again. It's like a never ending thing at the end. Like when you're done writing it, then the beginning of all the work, it feels like it starts. But I remember thinking like, okay, I'm going to do this. Obviously it's there. I can see the end game. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But then you have to remind yourself, all right, what else, especially when you're working on one big thing and you don't have all the little accomplishments along the way because you're just working on one big thing. It's easy to get wrapped up in like that you haven't done it. What else have you done? And it's like, go back and look. So I have an email in my personal email, that a draft that I sent to myself, and the subject is accomplishments. And I've been going in there. I haven't done it in a while. I should visit it again. And going back and adding to my list of things I've accomplished. Like I paid for my entire college education. I have 2 degrees. I didn't have maybe $500 from my parents, and they probably borrowed it from someone else. I mean, I had nothing. I worked my way through school. I had 2 jobs, all of that, like all of the things that you accomplish along the way, whether you had help or not, you still in the end accomplish them yourself. It's a big thing to go look at that list as you get older too. Obviously it's going to be shorter when you're younger, but it's so fun to go back and look. I'm like, yeah, I did do all that. Yeah, I did. One time I was on a job interview. It's one of the best questions I've ever had. It was probably the last 4 years. And he said, what are you proudest of accomplishing? Or what's the biggest thing? I've never had this question in an interview before. So it took me back. And I'm like, he said, what are you proudest of? I'm like, every single thing I have in my life, I've earned myself. Not one person gave me anything I have. And it was like oh yeah, that's right. I wasn't like I just went off and I had a dream. I'm going to go try this. I'm going to go try that. And no one ever said, okay, well, here's $50,000 for your education. I'm not faulting the people that have the money to help their kids, or here's a car, here's a brand new car. I had friends in high school that got brand new cars when they were 16, that kind of thing. That just wasn't in my family's realm. So it is so much more fun earning it yourself and then looking back at everything you did on your own. So I love that advice, and keep doing it, because you're going to look back and realize how far you've come and what you're actually capable of. When people say, you can't do that, it's like, well, watch me. And I'll say one more thing about that before I ask you the question. Liz Gilbert, I was listening to her. She was on an interview, the writer, Elizabeth Gilbert, and someone was asking her about how she takes the criticism and people criticize her work or her writing or whatever. She's like, basically she has to get in this place where I'm not, I have to just do my work and everyone's going to have their own opinion. But then at the end of the day, she said, she's like, really at the end of the day though, the truth about that person is, why don't you write your own book? And usually the people that are critiquing you, they're not writing a book, right? Or they're writing a book and it's completely different. It's not even really about you, it's about them. But it was such a funny little thing. She's like, you're not going to write a book like mine and then make it different or better or whatever. You're going to write your own book, which is not even going to compare to my book. So it was just a funny way to see someone that successful be like, yeah, you're right. Very few people actually do it, right?
Yeah. And this ties into something else, which is, when you want to take on a big goal, big ambition, like writing a book, or it could be anything else. It's reminding yourself of the past wins, and then also giving yourself daily wins. So this is something, if I was on my deathbed, I can only pass on one piece of advice or wisdom or something that I've learned that I think would help the most people. It would be this, the 3 magic words technique, as I call it. And the 3 magic words are, can I just? And then you follow it up with what's called a micro commitment. And BJ Fogg, a Stanford psychological researcher, talks about this idea of tiny habits. It's these little things that build momentum. So for instance, I'll start with something very ordinary. Cleaning your house. I go, okay, I got my whole house to clean or whatever. I go, can I just clean the corner of this desk? Then I can stop after 30 seconds, right? Yeah, clean it. What happens is you feel a sense of accomplishment. If you acknowledge it, at least you go, oh, that feels pretty good. Well, I'm already cleaning the desk. Might as well clean the rest of the desk off. Well, I already cleaned this desk. I might as well clean the kitchen counter too, or whatever it is. And you get into this momentum. For me with exercise, it would be Stephen Geis wrote the book Mini Habits, which is the same kind of concept. And that is, he didn't feel like doing a workout one day and, kept putting it off, procrastinating. And then he goes, well, what if I just do one push-up? So he does one push-up. We're down there doing one push-up. Well, I might as well do a few more. Right. Or I might as well finish out the set. Oh, I did a set of push-ups. So I might as well do a set of pull-ups or whatever it is. Right. And then it just builds into this momentum. So this is, you have the big goals and ambitions. If you're only focused on the big goal and ambition, it is overwhelming to think about all the things that you have to do. And it's so far away. It's maybe months or years in the future. So you bring it back to, can I just do blank right now? And this is great for procrastination, overcoming fear. Like, oh, I'm worried about going up and talking to this person. Well, can I at least just wave at them? Can I at least just smile at them? Can I just do whatever? And then you get a little win and the dopamine kicks in. And then you go, can I just do a little more and a little more? And so I use this in the writing process. Tim Ferriss talks about writing 2 crappy pages a day. That's another way of doing, can I just take down the quality of it? And it sounds counterintuitive. Well, if you're a high achiever and you have high standards, shouldn't it always be like more and better? And it's like, you got to see the process, right? Like, so I'm going to go another fitness weightlifting analogy. Like, you don't just go into the gym first thing in the morning, you wake up and you're tired. And then you just go, I'm going to load up the heaviest set of bench press I've ever done and try to lift it. You would start with a lightweight and you would warm up, you'd get the blood flowing and you would gradually ramp up. So it's the same thing with your actions, with your task. You give yourself small little task. Okay. Can I just write one sentence? Can I just open up my word processor, write one sentence? And I don't have to keep going unless I really want to. So if I'm sitting there, and I've had plenty of times where this happens and still happens, and like, I kind of feel like surfing Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And I certainly still fall into that mindless, social media or whatever. Yeah. If I really have something I want to do, I play this little game with myself. Like, okay, well, I can do that. First, can I just open up a word processor, brainstorm 3 ideas for emails that I can write? I don't even have to write them, just write down 3 ideas. It'll only take me 30 seconds. Okay, do that. Well, I kind of like that idea. Let me make a few more notes about this. 15 minutes go by. I'm like, I've written like 2 pages and I'm like, oh, wow, that was easy. And the thing is, I didn't force myself into it. You don't have to force yourself. You allow yourself to do it. You ask yourself and you make it so small and tiny that you're guaranteed to do it. Yeah. What this does is it allows you to witness the wins right now. The win each day. What did I accomplish? Not just in my whole life up to this point. What did I accomplish today? And this has a lot to do with how you frame things, because it's a funny thing. I heard, people can do, I don't remember the exact number, maybe 5 to 7, like really kind of core tasks per day. And I don't mean like little stuff like filling up a bottle of water or something. Yeah. I mean like significant things. And even then, sometimes just 1 to 3 like really important things is all you need to get done in a day to really make progress on a goal. So what'll happen is some people, and I've done this and I've talked with clients that do this. It's like, I have my to-do list and, I only got 9 out of 10 things done today that I wanted to get done. And every day it's like, I didn't quite do enough. Yeah. And even when you do enough, 3 more things get added. So it's always feeling like I'm catching up. I didn't do all the things I wanted to do. And so every day feels like a failure instead of going, here's the one most important thing to do. Yep. If here's a couple other things that are ideal to do, anything beyond that is bonus. And what happens is instead of 9 out of 10 things being a failure, it now becomes, here's the 3 most important tasks. I got those 3 things done. And then I got, you could say 6 maybe other things done on top of that. So I got 9 things. I am rocking it today. I got these 9 things done. I have my minimum of 3 like really most important things. Now all of a sudden it's a huge success, but it was all in how it was framed. No one put a gun to in anyone's head and said, you have to do these 10 things. Like, it's just how we decide what we decide to take on. So set yourself up to win, set yourself up to be a success, because that success breeds success. And this is why it's so key. You do want to challenge yourself. You don't want to, it's like lifting weights. You don't want to challenge yourself to the point you're going to injure yourself. You just want to stretch a little bit, and also allow for days where you go, hey, today I'm just, maybe the most important thing is to rest. Maybe my number one thing to do today is to take a nap so I can recharge, because I've been going at it so hard. And that might be the most productive thing that you can do. So to recap,
I think that's it. I think that's what I'm going to name this newsletter when I send it out for your podcast. Is Can I Just? It's brilliant. It's so simple. I love it. Okay, final question for you. What is your greatest gift that you bring to the world every day? What would you say?
To sum it up in one word, empowerment. It encapsulates why I coach, why I teach others, is to show people, help them find the resourcefulness that they have inside, the genius that they have inside, the answers that they have inside, to show them it is possible for you to do many of these things. And even if it's not possible to do a very particular, let's say, task, there's something that you can fulfill inside of yourself. And so one of the pet peeves that I have, especially in the coaching world, is when someone says, this is the way to do it. You want to be a successful author, you need to publish this type of book in this genre, and you need to market it this way. You have to publish a book every year, or you have to publish a book every month, or you have to podcasts are the way to go, which I love podcasts. Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's going to fit for some people, but maybe not other people that might be very miserable to do that. And so I want to show people, like, you can find a path that works for you. And not only can you, and a lot of times it's necessary, because you might not have the joy and the fulfillment and the energy that you bring to something unless you find what matches with your strengths and your personality. So that drives a lot of what I do. Is, you could call it giving people permission at times, but also really showing them a practical way of saying, oh, here's your strengths. Here's how you leverage that to get this outcome that you want. Like, that, you can do that. I'm like, yeah, here's 20 other people who did it. And they're like, oh, okay. And that's what lights me up. I love that. It was such an inspiring conversation. I learned a lot, and you and I are very like-minded in who we follow and the kind of stuff we want to learn about. And I love it. It's I think people are going to be very empowered after they listen to this. And I so appreciate your time. And how if people want to work with you and they have a book in mind, or what do you suggest, or what's the best way of following you and getting in touch with you? Yeah. So the best way, if you're interested in anything authorship related, it would be bestsellersecrets.com. And that's we get free book, Why Authors Fail, and get on the newsletter. And then if you're more interested in personal development or things like that, then my books are on Amazon. And probably just simplest thing would be search my name, Derek Doepker, on Amazon, or book titles like Why You're Stuck or The Healthy Habit Revolution. Awesome. Well, congratulations on all your success, and you're definitely an inspiration. I love your story and your trajectory, and way to go. Keep going. Yeah. Thank you so much. Empowering people. We need it. Yeah. Thanks, Derek. Yeah. Thank you. Bye. Thanks for listening. If you love this content, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you found us on. You can get all my social media links in the description below. Help us keep the momentum going so that every person can live their lives happily, doing work they love.